Now, what nitrogen monoxide other media dared to tell you? Burgundy and gold is one signature away from activating a master plan. First, an elite DNA receiver who stole top-secret techniques from an all-pro. If he unlocks his full potential, Cliff will have a bionic weapon. Second, a maniac linebacker ordered burn them all in the locker room. His brutal methods have the NFC shaking. And third, Adam Peters hid veteran firepower that could blow the salary cap or deliver the Super Bowl key. The DMV has 72 hours to decide its fate. Are you going to risk not knowing if Washington, SIGNS a 90-sack monster, or an OL with 2 rings? Turn on the bell now, Commanders. This is not a game. We're going all in. Look, after years of watching this team struggle to find depth in the receiving room, after seeing golden opportunities slip away because we didn't have the weapons, we finally have something that should genuinely excite us. Luke McCaffrey, Christian's younger brother, is putting in the work this organization has needed to see for a decade. And I tell you this with every bit of conviction I've got. When I see a player capitalizing on every chance like this, it tells me all about their mindset and future in this league. Do you remember how McCaffrey got to Washington? He was a third-round pick last year, number 100 overall. And from the first day he stepped into the Ashbourne facilities, this kid showed something different. He comes from a family that gets what success in the NFL means. Christian McCaffrey didn't become an all-pro by accident. And Luke clearly inherited that same work ethic. Did you see what happened during OTAs and minicamp? Terry McLaurin, our number 1 receiver, chose not to show up as he's seeking a new contract. And I respect that. McLaurin has earned the right to chase his money after being the lone bright spot during years of mediocrity. Michael Gallup was dealing with a hamstring injury that limited him, and Noah Brown had issues that kept him completely off the field. And you know what Luke McCaffrey did? He seized every rep, every chance, every moment to show he belongs not just on this team, but potentially at the elite level of this position. The reports from practices were consistent. McCaffrey showed sharper roots than in his rookie year, smoother movement suggesting a deeper understanding of Cliff Kingsbury's system, and significantly improved catching technique. We're talking a remarkable leap in just 1 year, and that doesn't happen by accident. I believe what we're seeing here is the direct result of having an organization that finally knows how to develop talent. Dan Quinn isn't just a defensive head coach. He understands how to create culture. Cliff Kingsbury has worked with elite receivers all his career, from his days at Texas Tech to Arizona. They're creating an environment where young players can flourish without the toxic pressure that existed under the previous regime. But here's what really interests me. What has me completely excited about McCaffrey's potential? He's spending his free time training with Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. You're crazy if you think that's coincidental. When you have access to train with an all-pro like Christian, who's racked up more than 1,000 rushing and receiving yards in multiple seasons, and an explosive talent like Robinson, who was the 8th overall pick and is already establishing his dominance in Atlanta, you're talking about taking your game to completely different levels. Do you understand the mentality required for this? Most second-year players will be relaxing during the offseason, enjoying their downtime. McCaffrey is actively searching for ways to improve. He's learning from his brother, who understands the nuances of running routes from the backfield, spacing concepts, and how to create separation against elite defensive backs. Robinson brings a different perspective, a receiver who came out of the backfield at Texas and has had to adapt his game to the demands of the NFL. McCaffrey can learn from that transition, from how to maximize his versatility in multiple positions. I ask you this. When was the last time we saw a Commanders receiver take their off-season development this seriously? When was the last time we had a young player with this combination of natural talent, work ethic, and access to elite mentors? McCaffrey understands he comes from a football family, understands the work required, and more importantly, understands that this could be his chance to emerge as a key piece in Kingsbury's offense. The reality is McCaffrey has the perfect opportunity to claim more targets in 2025. His rookie year was solid. 35 receptions for 454 yards and a touchdown. Respectable numbers for a rookie, but the signs are there for a significant leap. He's already shown his value in kick returns where he averaged 24.8 yards per return, but he wants more. And after seeing his progress during the off-season program, I believe we're about to witness a real breakout. Kingsbury is known for using versatile receivers in multiple formations. In Arizona, he used players like Christian Kirk and Rondale, more in roles similar to what McCaffrey could occupy. The difference is McCaffrey has the pedigree, the work ethic, and now the technical development to potentially surpass what those players achieved. Do you believe McCaffrey can become the number 2 receiver this team needs? I believe not only can he, but he must. With McLaurin established as number 1, and with the need for multiple threats so Jaden Daniels can distribute the ball effectively, McCaffrey represents exactly the type of player who can make the difference. Between a good season and a special season. If that surprises you, wait to hear this. Now, let me ask you something that's been bugging me for weeks. When was the last time we heard a Commanders player talk with this conviction, this intensity, this absolute clarity about unfinished business? Frankie Luvu just sent a message. That has me completely excited about this team's mindset for 2025. And I'm going to explain why this is much deeper than simple motivational words. After all we suffered as fans during the Dan Snyder era, after years of hearing excuses, empty promises, and toxic leadership, we finally have players who understand the urgency of the moment. Luvu said something that hit me straight in the heart. I know we have unfinished business. We left a lot out there last year, but last year was last year. This year is a new beginning, a fresh start. We just have to do the work now, so when the moment comes, we can celebrate. That's burgundy and gold, baby. That's the mentality we need, that we've been waiting for, that is finally emerging in this organization. Not dwelling on what happened in the NFC Championship game against Philadelphia. Not staying lost in the points left on the field. The plays not made. The opportunities missed. No, sir. Luvu is saying it's time to work now so we can celebrate later. But let me tell you why Luvu has the credibility to make these statements. This man arrived in Washington as a free agent after time with the Jets and Panthers. It wasn't a glamorous acquisition, didn't make the major headlines, but from day one he showed something this organization had lost: genuine hunger. Last season, Luvu amassed 103 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for loss. But the stats don't tell the whole story. Luvu became the emotional heart of that defense. When they needed a big play, Luvu was there. When they needed energy on the sideline, Luvu provided it. When they needed someone to keep everyone focused, Luvu assumed that role without anyone asking. I'm telling you, when your leading linebacker is preaching with this level of intensity, that filters through the locker room like a positive virus. Look at what's happening with Jaden Daniels, who's putting in extra prep over the offseason to avoid any decline in his second season. This mentality isn't happening by accident. Luvu is setting the standard, and other players are responding. And you know why this is so important. Because Luvu understands something that many players and fans don't fully grasp. The Commanders didn't reach the NFC Championship game by luck or an easy schedule. They beat Green Bay at home, a team that had dominated the playoffs for years. They beat Detroit at Ford Field, against a team that had been number 1 in the NFC for most of the regular season. They got there because they had talent, because they had coaching, and because they had a winning mentality. But falling short on that stage, losing that game to Philadelphia the way they did, can destroy a team or motivate it to the next level. We've seen teams get that far and then collapse the following season because they can't handle expectations. We've also seen teams use that experience as fuel to go even further. Luvu clearly chose motivation, ensuring his teammates do the same. And when you have trades for talents like Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil. When you have an organization investing serious resources into improving the roster, that tells you the unfinished business mentality extends from the players' room to the main office. This isn't the same franchise we knew under Snyder. Josh Harris is investing real money in facilities, staff, and players. Adam Peters is building a roster with purpose and vision. Dan Quinn is establishing a culture based on accountability and excellence. And players like Luvu are responding with the kind of leadership that can completely change a franchise's trajectory. I believe what Luvu is communicating here is something deeper than just summer motivational words. He's setting the standard for the entire 2025 season. He's saying this team won't be satisfied with just reaching the playoffs again. They won't be happy with just winning one playoff round. They're aiming for the ultimate prize, and they're willing to do the work necessary to get it. Do you remember how it felt when Sean Taylor set that kind of standard on defense? When Art Monk set the example of professionalism in the receivers' room? When Darryl Green established the mentality of never giving up? That's what Luvu is doing now, and the difference is now he has a whole organization aligned with that vision. Look at how the rest of the team is responding. Daniels is studying more film, working on his mechanics, preparing to avoid the sophomore slump that's destroyed so many promising careers. Veterans like Bobby Wagner are fully buying into Pole, the culture Quinn is establishing. Young players are realizing they've come to an organization that genuinely expects excellence. Do you believe this mentality could be the differentiating factor to take the Commanders to the next level? I not only believe it, I know it. I've seen too much football not to recognize when an organization is correctly aligned. When you have committed ownership, competent management, solid coaching, and players buying into the vision, you have all the elements for something special. That's nothing compared to what's coming, because Adam Peters is about to make moves that will shake the entire league. And when you thought we were done, when you thought Peters had already made enough explosive moves, here comes the really explosive. Adam Peters is considering 5 veterans who could completely shake up the Commanders' training camp. And I'm going to tell you why this is not just important, but absolutely crucial for the immediate future of this franchise. We're talking decisions that could make the difference between making it to the Super Bowl and falling short again. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room that's been bugging me since the draft ended. This team's pass rush desperately needs help, and I can't be clear about this without shouting. Outside of Frankie Luvu, who's effective in blitz packages, but not a traditional pass rusher, this team is completely dependent on Dorrance Armstrong Jr. making a massive leap from his 5 sacks last season. And what if he doesn't? What if Armstrong can't handle the load of being the primary pass rusher? We have a huge problem on our hands, the type of problem that can wreck a promising season. DeMarcus Walker, the reliable DeMarcus Walker, is the first name on the list. And let me explain why this makes perfect sense for Peters' philosophy. Walker spent the last 2 seasons with Chicago, racking up 7 sacks while playing 68% of the team's defensive snaps. His pass rush wasn't spectacular, averaging 3.5 sacks per season, but he showed tremendous production against the run, which is exactly what this defense needs. Do you remember how we got run over in certain games last season? Walker is the type of player who can stop those 8 to 12-yard runs that kill defensive drives. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2016 coming out of Florida State, so he has the pedigree. He's played 128 games in the NFL, so he has the experience. And he's available at a price that won't compromise the salary cap. For Peters, who's been methodical in every decision since he arrived, this represents exactly the type of season, short-term solution he's been looking for. It's not glamorous. It's not going to sell jerseys, but it can be the difference between having 6 solid pass rushers and having 5. In the playoffs, that depth is crucial. Shaq Mason proven CHMIC, then we have Shaq Mason on the offensive line. And here's where things get really interesting. The Commanders invested heavily in this unit with the trade for Laramie Tunsil, which cost them a 2nd-round pick and the selection of Josh Conley Jr., who was their first-round pick at position 29. But with Sam Cosmi missing most, if not all, of the 2025 season due to an ACL injury he suffered in the offseason, they need real depth. Mason has proven chemistry with Tunsil from their time together in Houston. They played side by side for 2 seasons, developed communication, understood the adjustments each would make in pressure situations. That can't be taught in training camp. That's built over hundreds of reps in real game situations. Moreover, Mason is a 2-time Super Bowl champion with New England in 2016 and 2018. He played in the biggest games against the most intense defenses in the most crucial moments. Do you think that experience counts for nothing when you're trying to reach the Super Bowl? Mason knows what it feels like to be on that stage, how to prepare for those moments, and can convey that mentality to the rest of the offensive line. Yes, he gave up 8 sacks in 2024 with Houston, but he played 17 games and over 1,000 snaps. Any offensive lineman is going to give up sacks playing that volume. The important thing is he stayed healthy, consistent, and available. Gabriel Davis, underrated T.A. Lien's Gabriel Davis, in the receiving room is another fascinating possibility that could solve multiple problems. With Terry McLaurin absent from voluntary activities seeking his new contract, which is entirely understandable but still problematic, Michael Gallup dealing with recurring injuries that have been an issue he arrived from Dallas, and Noah Brown with complications no one is fully explaining, Davis might be exactly what they need. Davis was an underrated gem in Buffalo for 4 seasons. He racked up 2,145 receiving yards and 20 touchdowns with the Bills, playing alongside Stefon Diggs in one of the most productive receiving corps in the NFL. His best season was 2022, where he had 836 yards and 7 touchdowns, showing he can be a legitimate number 2 receiver. His season in Jacksonville was disappointing. Just 20 receptions for 239 yards in 10 games. But injuries didn't help, and organizational chaos in Jacksonville didn't give him a real chance to succeed. If that was just a fluke, a lost season in a terrible situation, the Commanders should seriously consider him. Davis stands 6'2" and can win physical battles against smaller defensive backs. He has the speed to stretch the field vertically. He has experience in playoff situations, having played in multiple postseason games with Buffalo. And he's available at a price that likely wouldn't exceed the veteran minimum. Jadeveon Clowney, the big Anayami, but here come the 2 most explosive names, the ones that will make the entire league look at what the Commanders are doing. Jadeveon Clowney and ZA'DARIUS Smith. Both are established pass rushers who could immediately solve this team's edge issues. And I guarantee you either will completely change this defense's dynamic. Clowney, the first overall pick of the 2014 draft from South Carolina, was released by the Panthers as part of their youth movement under Dave Cannells. It caught him completely off guard, according to his statements. But it opens an incredible opportunity for a team ready to compete. Do you remember the hype around Clowney coming out of college? The hit he put on Michigan in the Outback Bowl became instant legend. He was compared with Reggie White, with Bruce Smith, with the all-time greats. Yes, he never reached that level of dominance, but that doesn't mean he isn't a valuable player. In his 10 NFL seasons, Clowney has accumulated 51.5 sacks, 160 tackles for loss, and 24 forced fumbles. Those aren't Hall of Fame numbers, but they're the numbers of a consistently productive player who's faced double teams his entire career. Last season with Carolina, he had 6 sacks and 52 tackles at 31 years of age. More important than the sacks is his impact against the run. Clowney has always been elite at stopping the run, setting the edge, and forcing runs inside where linebackers can make tackles. In a defense like the Commanders, where they already have solid tacklers in the second level, Clowney can be the piece that completes the puzzle. ZA'DARIUS Smith, the elite veteran ZA'DARIUS Smith, a 3-time Pro Bowler with 69 sacks. In his career, didn't receive a new offer from Detroit after a solid season where he had 5.5 sacks in 16 games. That's surprising when you consider his credentials, his productivity, and the fact that Detroit is supposedly in contender mode. Smith comes from seasons of 12.5 sacks with Green Bay in 2019, 10.5 sacks with Minnesota in 2022, and has been consistently one of the most reliable pass rushers in the league over the last decade. At 32 years old, he's still got gas in the tank. He's still got the refined technique that comes from hundreds of matchups against elite offensive tackles. What excites me about Smith isn't just the sacks, but his versatility. He can play strong side in, weak side in, drop to defensive tackle in passing situations, blitz from linebacker spots in creative packages. Dan Quinn has shown the willingness to use multiple defensive fronts, and Smith would give him the flexibility to do things other teams can't anticipate. I'm telling you, if Peters signs either of these pass rushers, he's sending a clear signal that the Commanders are in win-now mode. They're not building for 2027 or 2028. They're building to win a Super Bowl in February 2026, with Jaden Daniels on his rookie contract, with a roster in its competitive window, with an organization finally aligned for success. And you know what's the craziest part about all this? Ben Standig from The Athletic, who has real connections within the organization, believes something might happen after the first week of training camp, depending on how things unfold. If the current players meet expectations, if Armstrong shows the leap everyone's hoping for, if chemistry develops like Quinn wants, then Peters will likely stick with the current roster. But if things aren't progressing as anticipated, if there are signs they need more depth or talent, that's when we could see 1 or 2 new reinforcements arriving. Peters isn't the type of general manager who sits idly by if he sees problems developing. The Commanders' window is wide open. Daniels is on his rookie contract for the next 3 years, meaning cap space available for veterans. They have ownership willing to spend real money. They're in one of the most attractive situations in the league after emerging from the embarrassing dysfunction under Snyder's administration. Any veteran on this list would jump at the chance to join this exciting project. Washington, D.C. is a massive media market, a city where sports heroes become legends. The new facility in Ashburn is world-class. The coaching staff is respected around the league. And most important, there's a real belief that this team can compete for a championship, while Jerry Jones in Dallas keeps making questionable moves and ref. Let's recap what we've just covered over the past 45 minutes. Authentic development, transformational leadership, and roster decisions that could define a decade. Luke McCaffrey is showing the work and the mindset needed to emerge as a star. Frankie Luvu is setting the right mentality that can change culture forever. And Adam Peters is evaluating options to make this team even more complete in the areas they most need it. I guarantee that tomorrow we'll have more explosive news about the Commanders. This organization is moving at a pace we haven't seen since the days of Joe Gibbs, Art Monk, and Darryl Green, and you cannot miss what's coming in the next few weeks. Which of these 5 veterans do you think would have the biggest immediate impact on the Commanders? Do you think Luke McCaffrey can become the number 2 receiver we've been waiting for years? And do you believe Frankie Luvu's mentality could be the intangible factor to take us to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans? If you think Peters should sign ZA'DARIUS Smith immediately, subscribe if you think these Commanders are ready to make history in 2025. Let me know in the comments which of these news has you most excited, because in this community, we're a burgundy and gold family, and I want to hear all your passionate opinions. Don't miss a single update, because I promise what's coming during training camp will be even more explosive. Stay connected to the #1 Commanders channel on YouTube, where we combine deep technical analysis with the authentic passion that only true DMV fans can offer. And remember, hail to the Commanders!